Hello and welcome back. In the last section, we looked at integrating our API with the Auth0 JWT access tokens, and we were able to successfully validate those tokens and make sure that our APIs are well protected. And I subsequently went back to the code base and then made sure that some of these variables were essentially, we were getting it from the environment process.ame variables as opposed to hard coding that. So I went ahead and did that change and tested that, so it's all working fine right now. And another thing that I wanted to essentially let you know was that all these tokens that we are working with here right now, this is the access token. These are valid for 24 hours, and that's something that's configurable inside of Auth0 console or the dashboard, and we'll definitely look into it some time down the line, because it's important to make sure that the tokens are valid for a certain amount of time in order to avoid any security risks cropping up, right? We'll definitely have a look at it at some time down the line, and we'll now head over back to our UI and essentially send the token to our endpoint and see how things work out. Let me head over back to my FE project, the front-end project, and in here I'm actually going to create a few changes in terms of the signature for the create user, right? So let me go inside here. And in here, I'm going to essentially accept a token in addition to the user. And over here, what I'm going to do is provide the token at the time of invoking this API. And let's see how we can do that. And let me see. So I'm going to define another object here called headers. Okay. And this is going to be an object which contains the authorization as the key. Authorization. Okay. And this is going to have a value. And again, this has to be in backticks. So we'll use a string interpolation provided by JavaScript. And this is going to be bearer, and dollar, and flower braces token. So this is going to be our header. So right now there's only one header, but yeah, in future we might have a few more, right? What I'm going to do now is essentially provide this particular thing as headers, okay? Let's see. What I'm going to do here though is just get the headers. Again, it has to be an object because otherwise, it's not going to work. All right, super. So with this in place, what we're doing right now is we're actually sending the headers over to our API. And the important thing though is that we need to also pass this header when we call this create user, make this create user call. So let's head over back to app.js, and we are anyway getting the token here. Let me go ahead and send the token over here. All right. So the only way we can actually test this right now is to make this particular thing less than or equal to 1 as some big number. So if I head over back to my app and head over to the profile, and you can see there's already been 30 logins here, okay? So if I make it, let's say, any number that's greater than 30, it should allow us to essentially hit that API again. Okay, so let me go over and say make it 31. Yeah, that should be 31, yeah. So this should actually trigger a new call to that particular endpoint. I'm not sure if it actually resulted in an error yet. So it gives us a conflict here, right? It shouldn't have gone, but because we made it 31, it went ahead and did that, and I'm sure you would also see a error on the backend side of it. There we go. We are essentially saying, it's a 409 here. We're not printing the error, but we're essentially saying it's a 409. Super. So, which means our API token is going in here, and it's doing its job there. We're able to verify the tokens. All right, we are printing the request.user object in here already. So yeah, we are actually printing. This is the token. This is the access token, guys. So you're getting everything here. your audience, you have the subject, right, which is the user here, and the issuer. So we have everything in here. Okay, we have the issued ad, expiry, scope. Yeah, this is our token. Super. So the next thing we want to do is we'll also make sure we test the happy path, because this was the not a happy path, because we were not able to create a user at the end of it all. So we want to make sure we also can create a user now. And what I'm going to do now is essentially go back to the code here and set it back to 1. So I will go over back to my window here, the app window, sign out, and let me register a user. Okay, and this is going to be, and continue. Let's see what happens. Alright, it's asking me for, I don't want to save this, asking me for the profile, for my permission. I'm going to say accept. Now we should be able to create a new user, right? Let's see if we actually have the call. Let's see the console. Yeah, there is the access token, and we got the result in here. And yeah, we ended up creating a new user here, right? And if you go into the network tab, unfortunately we didn't trail this. We would have seen that otherwise, going as a bearer token. Okay, but we can always see this here. Okay, so this is the new call to the API users post endpoint, and we can see that now we are seeing a new user. And this is, I expect this to be a different user. Before that it was this is right, AF36. Before it was 76F. Okay, so if we go over to our users table, okay, I'm already logged into Robo3D. Look at users table, it should have a new user. Yeah, there we go, the one that ends with 36, and that's the latest one. Super. So what we're going to do now though is essentially we're not going to be using this user. Maybe we will use it at some point in time, but not immediately. Let me log out of here. Every time we create a user, it is going to essentially create a new user entry in our user management on the dashboard for Auth0. Yeah, there we go. We had one for Jane, and then we have a new user. We can go ahead and make those changes for the name in case you want to. All right, I can go here, and if you look at this particular user in here, okay, there are a few attributes, and email is one of them, and it says pending, right? So essentially it is expecting, it is not a verified email right now. So if I go back to, for second user, the verified value will be pending. Yeah, this is pending, right? So if I want to edit this, I can only, okay, so you can actually set the email as verified here. Generally an email will go out to this email ID, and there you will get a link, and essentially you have to do that particular stuff. Maybe I can just show that over to you here. So open my email account here. So there we have the email, verify your email, all right, for the new user ID that we created, which is TP user 2, and I can go ahead and verify this account, and it says email verified. And if I head over back to the user details in here and essentially refresh this, and now it should be verified. Let's go here, look at the details. It should be in a verified state. Yes, that's what it says here. Okay, and parallelly we can also say verified here for Jane. And sometimes, you know, some people can also make sure only verified users are able to log into the system by looking at this particular attribute, right? So if I head over here right now and sign in as, let's say, Jane again, yeah. So, and head over back to my profile here. Right now, I think email is not verified. Email verified as false, and whenever I log in and if I see that the email verified as false, I essentially do not allow him, because that's another security measure that a lot of people put in place to make sure that, you know, accounts are not compromised at any cost. But in this case, we're not being so restrictive. So what I'm going to do though is essentially go here and make sure that, so essentially what I'm trying to say is, I can go into FE here, and whenever a person is logging in, and I'm asking, if person is authenticated and the user.email is verified, is false, then I'm going to say I don't want to essentially allow this user. So what I mean by that is, if I go in here again, I can use this email verified attribute, and then if it's set to false, let's say if I can access this here, go over back to here, is authenticated, and I can say user dot email verified. Yeah, let's see what it actually gives us this time. Okay, I may have to re-log in, right? Sign back in again. I'll be keeping track of the logs here. Sign in. Your user is authenticated. Yeah, this is false right now. Okay, email is not verified. So yeah, that's some check that we can also incorporate, but in this case I'm not going to go ahead and do that. So before we essentially wrap up this session, what I want to do though is I want to go ahead and call this token endpoint only if the user needs to essentially log in. User needs to be created in our system. So I'm going to essentially put it in this if block and avoid a call every time we log in. I'm also going to go ahead and get rid of this. Alright, we are in good shape right now. And the next thing we want to do is push this code up to the GitHub and subsequently to our cloud deployment infrastructure. And let's see how we can go about it, and we'll be doing that for both the front-end and the back-end projects in the next lecture. So let's take a quick pause here and come back soon and move ahead with the continuous integration and continuous deployment aspect of our project, which is at the heart of what we are doing as well.